Life has a way of unraveling plans we meticulously laid out. And in those moments of despair, it often feels as if the very ground beneath us has crumbled. I remember a time when everything I had worked for seemed to slip through my fingers like sand. It was a season marked by disappointment and heartache, where my aspirations felt like distant dreams, and I questioned not only my path, but also the very essence of my faith. The job I had poured my heart into for years suddenly vanished in a wave of corporate restructuring. I had envisioned a future filled with stability, growth, and purpose. But in an instant, that vision disintegrated. I found myself grappling with feelings of inadequacy and sadness, questioning my worth and purpose. Each day began to blend into the next, a monotonous cycle of searching for opportunities that felt increasingly out of reach. In those quiet moments of despair, I often turned to Scripture, seeking solace in words that had once brought me comfort. One particular verse resonated deeply. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11. Yet, as I read those words, I felt a chasm between my reality and the promise of hope. How could I believe that God had a plan for me when everything seemed so bleak? It was a struggle to reconcile my faith with my circumstances, and I found myself drifting further away from the very source of strength I once relied upon. As weeks turned into months, I felt a growing sense of isolation. Friends offered their support, but the weight of my despair created a barrier I couldn't quite breach. I began to feel as if I was navigating a storm alone, with waves of doubt crashing over me. It was during this tumultuous period that I stumbled upon another verse that spoke to my heart. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Psalm chapter 34, verse 18. This reminder that I was not alone, that my pain was seen and acknowledged, began to pierce through the fog of my despair. In moments of stillness, I began to reflect on my journey, recognizing that failure is not a destination, but rather a part of the process. It is in these moments of vulnerability that we often find the seeds of resilience. Slowly, I started to embrace the idea that perhaps my plans were not the only plans at play. I began to seek out new opportunities, not just in the job market, but also within myself. I took up volunteering, which connected me to a community that reminded me of the beauty of human connection. As I engaged with others, sharing their struggles and triumphs, I felt a flicker of hope reigniting within me. I remembered another biblical promise. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. This notion of divine orchestration began to shift my perspective. I realized that while I may not have control over every circumstance, I could choose how to respond. The journey from despair to faith was not linear. It was filled with setbacks and moments of doubt. But with each step forward, I found myself leaning into prayer, seeking guidance and clarity. I began to see the beauty in the uncertainty, understanding that sometimes the paths we take lead us to places we never expected but desperately needed. With time, I regained my faith, not as a blind trust in a predetermined plan, but as a deep-seated belief in a God who walks alongside us through every trial. I learned to embrace the unknown, finding comfort in the assurance that everything, in its own time, would work out for my good. The tapestry of my life, woven with both joy and sorrow, began to reveal a greater purpose. reminding me that even in the darkest moments, there is always a glimmer of hope waiting to be uncovered. Please like, subscribe, and turn on your notification button for more videos like this.